We apologize for interrupting your doom scrolling. Now, for some positive leftist news.
PLN is a member of MeansTV, a worker-owned socialist streaming platform. Stay tuned until the end of the episode for a special 20% discount offer from MeansTV, and find the discount link and code in the description box below. Catholic sisters have returned land to the Ojibwe Nation, the first known instance of Catholic-owned land being transferred to a tribal nation specifically to confront the violent legacy of the residential school era. The Franciscan Sisters of Perpetual Adoration formally transferred their Marywood Franciscan Spirituality Center in Arbor Vitae to the tribe, facilitated by Land Justice Futures, a nonprofit that helps religious institutions confront complicity in land dispossession. Tribal President John D. Johnson Sr. said this return represents more than the restoration of land. It is the restoration of balance, dignity, and our sacred connection to the places our ancestors once walked. The sisters' courage shows what real healing looks like. The nearly 2-acre property will now return to Ojibwe hands. The tribe has not finalized plans but is considering community uses such as housing or a cultural space. A spokesperson for the tribe said the process was carried out with respect and kindness, a stark contrast to the violence that once defined church-tribal relations. While the land represents only a fraction of what was taken, the transfer stands as a rare, concrete act of restitution and a challenge to other religious institutions that profited from colonization to follow suit. Land back everywhere. The Ontario Federation of Labour adopted a major policy this month in the support of Palestinian human rights and solidarity. Resolutions were overwhelmingly adopted in support of anti-Palestinian racism, providing support for Palestine solidarity activists who are targeted by their employers or police, support for pension divestment, and ending Canadian Labour's relationship with Israeli labor organization Histadrut. A heartfelt thank you to organizers in Labor for Palestine for the immense work that led up to this significant victory. Free Palestine. The left-ruled state of Kerala, India, has officially declared the eradication of extreme poverty, assisting 64,000 of its most marginalized households with identity documents, grants, housing, and access to welfare schemes under the 4-year Extreme Poverty Eradication Program. Families previously homeless, dealing with chronic illness, or destitute now receive land, housing support, medical care, and daily food security, a lifeline that has allowed them to regain dignity and stability. Thousands of local officials, community workers, and women's groups have been mobilized to reach those excluded from traditional welfare programs, providing deeply personalized support. While critics dispute the claims of total eradication, Kerala's achievement is undeniable. The state now has India's lowest poverty rate at 0.55%, far below the national average of 11.28%. This success is rooted in decades of socialist policies, including land reforms, universal education, healthcare, social security, and participatory governance. Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan and Left Democratic Front leaders credit long-term planning, grassroots governance, and sustained social investment for this milestone. EPEP 2.0 has already been announced to ensure families missed in the first phase are reached, with officials pledging continuous monitoring to prevent relapse into poverty. Kerala's experiment offers a striking model for the rest of India and the world, demonstrating that while capitalist exploitation entrenches poverty and inequality, socialist action is what actually lifts communities up. After a 42-day strike, Kickstarter United has declared victory, securing a new contract that includes a 4-day workweek, improved pay equity, and safeguards against AI replacing their jobs. Kickstarter United member, steward, and collective bargaining committee member Daniel Giraudo said, "It is through the solidarity and steadfast resolve of my coworkers and union that we achieved this victory. We hope that it can inspire other workplaces and unions to not just accept the status quo, but fight for a better workplace of their own." A welcomed reminder that the union makes us strong. Zurich's construction sites fell silent on Friday, November 14th, as Switzerland's largest union, Unia, along with SINA, mobilized a full-day strike over stalled negotiations for the National Collective Labor Agreement covering Switzerland's 80,000 construction workers. Among the core demands are family-friendly working hours, fair pay for morning breaks, and compensation for travel time to work sites, issues that directly impact the daily lives of construction workers. Negotiations, now entering a crucial new round, will determine wages, working hours, and benefits, and could set a precedent for labor relations nationwide. PLN will be following as this story develops. In a historic act of recognition, the Spanish government has granted citizenship to 170 descendants of the International Brigades, the volunteers who risked their lives fighting Franco's fascist forces during the Spanish Civil War. These volunteers, drawn from across the globe, stood on the front lines to defend democracy, with over 500 losing their lives. At a ceremony in Madrid, Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez hailed the descendants as compatriots, calling for the same defense of democracy that their forebears fought for when fascism threatened Europe. The gesture comes on the 50th anniversary of Franco's death. For the families of the brigades, the recognition is long overdue. Jim Jump, chair of the International Brigade Memorial Trust in London, said this fulfills the promise of the Spanish Republic to offer a home and recognition to those who stood against tyranny. In Caracas, citizens filled the streets to protest the United States' aggression that threatens Venezuela's sovereignty and peace. The demonstration reflected the unity and determination of the Venezuelan people, who mobilized to reaffirm their commitment to national independence and the Bolivarian Revolution. Reporter Andre Romero emphasized that citizens were resolutely rejecting the false narratives promoted by foreign powers, which portray Venezuela as a narco-state in an effort to justify interference. Participants at the rally said, "We are on alert because the Venezuelan people are united in the face of this criminal threat." Citizens drew historical parallels to Simón Bolívar, the liberator of Latin America, framing their protest as a continuation of centuries-long struggle for freedom and self-determination. Through chants, music, and displays of solidarity, the citizens of Caracas reaffirmed their commitment to defending their sovereignty, sending a clear message that Venezuela will resist attempts to destabilize the country. In late October, the steps of the Saeima became a stage for a historic demonstration, as thousands of citizens rallied against the Latvian government's plan to withdraw from the Istanbul Convention, the European treaty aimed at preventing and combating violence against women and domestic abuse. According to organizers and the state police, this protest is among the largest in recent years, demonstrating widespread public resistance to the government's rollback of human rights protections. This is not just about women, it's about human rights, democracy, and the integrity of our society, said Beata Yonte. The very discussion of withdrawal has emboldened abusers and legitimized harmful rhetoric. We must fight back as a united civic society. Historians and public figures joined the rally, warning lawmakers that withdrawing from the convention would be a historic mistake, signaling a dangerous retreat from democratic values. Over 20,000 citizens have already signed a petition calling on deputies to reject any legislation to withdraw from the convention. The movement is committed to fight until victory. The U.S. Supreme Court has refused to overturn its landmark 2015 ruling legalizing same-sex marriage nationwide. The decision turned away an appeal from Kim Davis, the former Kentucky court clerk, who famously defied the law by refusing to issue marriage licenses to same-sex couples. Davis, who drew national attention for her obstinate opposition on religious grounds, had sought relief from a lower court order requiring her to pay $360,000 in damages and attorney fees to a couple denied a marriage license. The majority of the current court upheld the fundamental right of LGBTQ+ people to marry, recognizing that millions have relied on this ruling in their lives, families, and communities. New York City has elected self-described socialist Zoran Memdani as its next mayor, marking a dramatic shift in the city's political landscape. With over 50% of the vote, Memdani decisively defeated former Governor Andrew Cuomo, who garnered just 41.6%, while Republican Curtis Sliwa trailed with barely 7%. In his victory speech at the Brooklyn Paramount Theater, Memdani celebrated a mandate for radical change and social justice. "Let tonight be the final time I utter Andrew Cuomo's name, as we turn the page on a politics that abandons the many and answers only to the few," he declared. Mamdani's campaign centered on affordability, housing justice, and support for working-class families. His win represents a rebuke of both the corporate-aligned Democratic establishment and the reactionary right. The conservative reaction was swift and hysterical. Former Mayor Rudy Giuliani falsely labeled Mamdani as a supporter of terrorism, while Trump's camp amplified xenophobic narratives, highlighting the city's diverse immigrant population as if it were a threat. The panic was emblematic of a ruling class grappling with a socialist victory in the nation's largest city. The Democratic establishment, well, they offered tepid congratulations. As conservatives and elite Democrats reel in panic, New Yorkers have rejected status quo politics. We only hope this has ripple effects across the country. This story bridges environmentalism and migrant rights. In southern Arizona, resistance is growing against the construction of a 27-mile border wall through the San Rafael Valley, a critical wildlife corridor. Few humans actually cross at this point, but the Madrean Archipelago Wildlife Center and allied groups warn that the wall will disrupt migration routes for endangered and iconic species, including jaguars, ocelots, pronghorn antelope, black bears, and mountain lions. Construction methods such as dynamiting mountains, clear-cutting trees, and using 700,000 gallons of water per mile for concrete further threaten the ecosystem. The movement unites environmental activists, indigenous leaders, artists, poets, and faith communities. In 2022, protests against Governor Ducey's attempt to build a shipping container wall in the valley combined art, music, and dressing as endangered animals. These efforts successfully led to the removal of the containers by 2023. On November 15th, as wall construction was underway, the Madrean Archipelago Wildlife Center once again brought activists, artists, poets, musicians, and indigenous leaders together to voice opposition. The rally began with a sacred ceremonial opening circle, blessing song, and drumming by Yaqui spiritual guides. Chairman Austin Nunez of the Tohono O'odham Nation addressed the crowd, highlighting the importance of preserving jaguar habitat and the right to reconsecrate sacred land. The wall not only bisects indigenous territory, but also impacts wildlife and migrants fleeing climate change. Congresswoman Adelita Grijalva also attended and spoke against the border wall. We've included a link for those who wish to support these efforts in the show notes. Over 70,000 people marched through the streets of Belém, Brazil, for the Global Climate March, the centerpiece of the People Summit, an autonomous gathering organized by more than 1,100 social movements as a direct challenge to the closed-door negotiations of COP30. Under the banner, We Are the Answer, indigenous peoples, peasants, Afro-descendant communities, workers, and youth marched 4.5 kilometers to Aldea Cabana, a symbolic space of resistance in the Amazon. The demonstration was a resounding rejection of the capitalist systems that destroy forests, rivers, and entire ecosystems. Slogans reading "Agribusiness is fire" and "Environmental collapse is capitalist" rose above the rhythms of drums, ancestral songs, and traditional dances. Workers from all over the world are marching here today to affirm that the republic we believe in is one that guarantees workers' rights, cares for nature with future generations in mind, and defends our country's sovereignty, said Ayala Ferreira of the Landless Workers Movement. Indigenous leaders spoke passionately about the stakes of the climate crisis. Deniva Kayabi of the Coordination of Indigenous Organizations of the Brazilian Amazon declared without land demarcation there is no life, no education, no health. The answer is in our hands because without us there is no clean air, no standing forests, no living rivers, and no Mother Earth preserved. The People's Summit, held in parallel to COP30, opened on November 12th with a flotilla of more than 200 boats carrying roughly 5,000 participants. A delegation of 1,300 landless peasants from across the Amazon region and Brazil joined the parade, asserting that there can be no climate justice without popular agrarian reform. Over 5 days, the summit provided open forums for public dialogue, plenary sessions, cultural activities, solidarity kitchens, and spaces for youth and children. Discussions focused on 6 key areas: territories and food sovereignty, historical reparations and environmental racism, just transition, democracy and internationalism of the people, just cities and vibrant peripheries, and popular feminism and women's resistance. Barbara Loureiro from the MST said, "We are here to denounce the false solutions being presented at COP30, solutions from large corporations in countries that do not consider the real needs of the people affected by climate change." On November 14th, around 50 members of the Munduruku people blocked the main entrance to the COP30 climate conference in Belém, Brazil, demanding to speak with President Lula da Silva about the ongoing threats to indigenous communities. The blockade, supported by international environmental groups, was met with a large presence of riot police, soldiers, and military vehicles. After hours of waiting, the group met with the president of COP30. Delegates were redirected to side entrances while the protests continued, highlighting the persistent exclusion of indigenous voices in global climate negotiations. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres emphasized the need for indigenous and grassroots organizations to counterbalance corporate lobbyists, who remain influential in shaping climate outcomes. Analysis shows that 1 in every 25 participants at this summit is a fossil fuel lobbyist. Civil society is pushing for more concrete solutions, including the creation of the Belém Action Mechanism, a proposed body to coordinate people-centered transitions to low-carbon economies and give communities direct control over climate-related decisions. Kuda Kwashe Manjonjo of PowerShift Africa noted that indigenous participation at COP30 represents a level of engagement rarely possible in the global north. Indigenous and grassroots movements have asserted their presence to ensure that the Amazon and its people are central to global climate discussions. China has achieved a major milestone in nuclear energy by operating the world's first reactor capable of converting thorium into uranium to sustain nuclear fission. This thorium-based molten salt reactor represents a fourth-generation nuclear system that uses thorium fuel and molten salt coolant, allowing it to operate without water at atmospheric pressure and produce high-temperature output. The technology is also designed to integrate with renewable energy sources and hydrogen production, supporting a low-carbon multi-energy system. The experimental 2-megawatt thermal reactor was developed by the Shanghai Institute of Applied Physics. Construction began in 2020, and in 2024, the reactor achieved the world's first thorium loading, moving the concept from laboratory research to practical engineering. Thorium is more readily available than uranium, produces less long-lived waste, and offers enhanced safety with a low chance of meltdowns. This milestone is thus a significant achievement in the field. If you have good news from the current month, please send your stories to mexi@protonmail.com. As mentioned, we have a special offer for viewers from MeansTV, which is a worker-owned cooperative dedicated to supporting and producing anti-capitalist media. The streaming service hosts us, along with other rad creators like Second Thought and Luna Oy, full-length documentaries like Abby Martin's Gaza Fights for Freedom, and Means original content like Means Morning News, Seriously Wrong's Papa and Boy, and much more. We're happy to announce that we are now able to offer viewers a discount on joining MeansTV. If you sign up using our link and code, which is MEXI, you'll get 20% off your first month, which comes to $7.99. Or you could go with the annual option and get 20% off the entire year. Signing up using our code not only directly contributes to the financial sustainability of the Means Cooperative Media Project, but is also a great way to support our channel. So if you have the means, consider taking us up on the discount. The link and code are in the description box below. Thank you to Javi for the Positive News Jams. Thank you to Cosmo for the Positive News background. Thank you to me and Catherine for scriptwriting, production, and hosting. And thank you to the Hazels for editing this video. If you'd like to support the show, please go to patreon.com/positiveleftistnews, or you can give us a one-time tip via PayPal. The link is in the description box below.